The bandwidth for this episode of the AR-15 podcast is sponsored by the Firearms Radio Network. FirearmsRadio.tv.
Welcome to episode number 99 of the AR-15 podcast. I'm your host, Reed Snyder, and with me today is my co-host, Anthony Hardy. This is the podcast about your favorite black rifle. The show is for you, whether you're building your first AR or you've been building ARs for years. There is something we can all do to take our black rifle to the next level. So, Anthony, it's kind of an auspicious moment tonight. We think we might actually have a real live, honest-to-goodness sound system in place to assist with the quality of our recording. So hopefully, from here on out, it's going to be good news for the listeners.
You're a brave man, sir. You're a brave man.
What, making that open declaration?
Exactly. Fingers crossed, guys.
So, yeah, let's hope that Murphy's Law doesn't come in and smack us upside the head.
Oh, I saw something. What was that? I saw something. It was just in the last couple of days here about Murphy. Murphy was an optimist.
Wasn't Stellar, was it?
Oh, I did see that. Oh, yes. That was fabulous. But, yeah, no, something about Murphy was an optimist or something. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Yeah.
All right, so let's start off with a thank you to Brownells, and it is Brownells that helps make this show possible. So we don't want you to forget that Brownells, with their 100% lifetime satisfaction guarantee, is there for you anytime you have a problem, like when you can't remove the taper pins from your new barrel or to slip off the front side base and now you have to find a new barrel, which is exactly what we had to do in our AR-15 podcast rifle giveaway, which, once again, we announced a winner last week, and our winner's name is Jennifer Gemin. And I know I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly, so Jennifer, if you're listening, we're spelling your name G-E-H-M-A-N. So we've sent you an email. We haven't heard any response back from you, and like we said when we announced, on December 3rd, we will have to roll over to the next winner drawn in our contest because, unfortunately, we just can't let you disqualify by not writing back and then me have to keep the rifle in the safe for the rest of eternity because that just wouldn't be right. So,
No, if that happens, I've already told you where it's going to end up, and then that's just how we do it.
I thought I explained that there is a clause in the FRN co-host contract that says that you cannot win any contest that we're giving away.
I didn't say I won. It just needs to be stored somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. Just storage. That's all.
So with that, we want to remind you that you can help us out just a wee bit for shopping for all of your AR-15 parts and needs at Brownell by going to ar15podcast.com/parts. I know we always get feedback from a great many of you that tell us that we are the inspiration for you starting down the path of building your first AR. So Brownells is a great company. They have a great return policy. They will make sure that you are a happy customer. So do us a favor and go there and help us out by going through that link so that we can get a little extra support in putting on this podcast for you. So Brownells, once again, is in the process of going through a black rifle giveaway. So their black rifle giveaway has rolled into, I believe it's week 4 now. So week 4 is compact firepower. And basically, they're talking about pistol, ARs, and how to basically go down the road of, I guess you could call it quasi-SBR ownership by entering into a rifle build or a pistol build on the AR platform. And of course, 6 hours, awesome stabilizing brace has really kind of transcended the old school of thought on a pistol versus an SBR. So I think that that's a great opportunity for a lot of you guys to go and look at what's out there in a pretty clear fashion, and kind of, how long ago was it we had our SBR episode?
I don't remember exactly. Yeah, it wasn't that long ago. Yeah, and so that's what's going on right now. So that week 4 compact firepower is good through November 16th, and I'm not sure that this episode, because we actually are recording a little bit late this week, folks. I'm not sure that this episode will be out by then. Hopefully it will be. You might have it for one day, but definitely for the upcoming week, the week of the 17th through the 23rd, they're going to go into total blackout.
Ooh, I think I know what that means.
I think so. I think we're going to look at a lot of 300 blackout items on sale. So
Well, that really distresses me because I've already completed my 300 blackout build.
Well, I've already completed my purchases for the firearm purchases for the month, so I'm down now.
So you've reached capacity. I hear you.
I have for this month.
I put in an order for a bolt carrier group that has a black nitride finish on it, so I'm going to see how that is going to perform for me. And I actually have a order for an upper receiver that does not have the M4 feed ramp cutouts, which is going to mate with the 20-inch barrel I have in a much more accurate combination, a much more reliable combination than I've had before. So I'm kind of excited. This should be a good week for me.
Very good. Very good.
So let's talk about, or I guess introduce our main topic. It wasn't but a week or two ago that we had a feedback come in and basically talk to us about hearing protection. And of course, hearing protection is one of those things that in all of what we do, we have not once really discussed in any meaningful way. And I would say, as someone who really has lost, I would say, a significant portion of my hearing because of my exposure to firearms, it's the most critical part of any time I make a range trip. And so hearing protection for an MSR shooter is the focus of today's episode. So, Anthony, tell me, what is your go-to hearing protection when you're going to go to the range?
Well, let me start off by saying this. This is what I currently use. I use the Peltor 3M Peltor Tactical Sport. I don't use the the S6 that a lot of people have. That's the
Tactical 6.
Yeah, they're a little bit less expensive than these. These are, well, I actually got them. The reason I went ahead and bought the one step up that's above the T6 was because these were on sale for $65. Normally these run about $100, so I caught them on sale. So I went ahead and grabbed these. But they're fabulous. They really, really are wonderful. They're a 20 dB hearing protection, and you go, well, how much? We'll get into that in just a few minutes, talking about the difference in decibels and things like that, because it really does make a difference. But these guys are electronic, which means they have little microphones on the outside, and they listen to the sounds that are coming through, and you actually can turn it up so you hear, when you're walking on the gravel, you hear the gravel crunching, you hear somebody whisper from across the range. So it's like having a set of hearing aids on, and you go, oh gosh, that's not what you want, right? You really want to be able to protect yourself a little bit better from your loud sounds. Well, it does that as well, because it listens with these little microphones, and where a sound above a certain decibel level comes through, it will basically mute that sound out and pull that sound out of the feed that it's getting you. So you actually hear better with these on, and you also don't have to worry about having your hearing damaged. So I love these things. They're really great. And they work well as a normal set of earmuffs, too, because I forgot to turn them on this past weekend, and just like, why am I not hearing everything? But I'm still not able to hear my gun as well. So they work really well just as a normal set of muffs, too. So.
Well, and here are the ones that I use. These are the Howard Light Impact Sports. I think that they are a very good quality hearing protection. I think I have worn out my ear pads, so I've got to get one of the hygiene kits and perhaps replace those. But the battery life on them is great. They do a great job for me. I I think the only complaint I would have is in an indoor range, shooting rifles, long rifles, there is some concussive, I guess, distraction, and I think that's simply because that concussive force overwhelms the design of the earmuff because it's kind of a thin cup, and you just can't silence or cut off that concussive force when a big bore rifle goes off next to you in a closed space. But
Yeah. So is that primarily like just for rifles? An issue for rifles?
it is. I've never experienced that in a meaningful way with handguns, but I think that, of course, when I bought mine, the technology was a little more simpler. I think we're probably 2 generations into it by now. So I probably need to go back and revisit another purchase at some point here pretty soon. But, I mean, I really do like them. And when it's too much, I'll just put in foam earplugs underneath those, and they do just fine. So that's kind of what I use. That's what you use. Let's kind of really define what it is that brings the point of using ear protection, and that's the decibel scale. So I think that the graphic that you put in the show notes is a really good demonstration of the spectrum of sounds. And we, of course, start with rustling leaves at 30 decibels, a ticking watch at 20, a quiet library at 40, normal conversation at 55 to 65 decibels, a vacuum cleaner at 60 to 85 decibels, a lawnmower at 90. And it's recommended that above 85 decibels you have some hearing protection. So a jet engine at takeoff is 140 decibels. Now that just so happens to be the point at which hearing damage occurs instantaneously. And now, Anthony, did you not find some example of 160 decibels being the point at which your eardrums are instantly pierced by the sound?
I think it was 160 it was, I believe. I think so, yeah.
So, I mean, it's not that far removed to have a point on that spectrum where you're going to have significant and permanent damage. Now,
yeah, but now the thing to remember too, there's a chart that we linked to right after we got this graphic, if you guys want to go take a look at the show notes, that actually gives you a good approximation of the decibels per caliber.
right.
When they give you that that rating, so let's say a 12 gauge shotgun is 160 some odd decibels. You go, well, that's above the point where my eardrums are going to automatically rupture. I don't want to ever fire a gun like that. Or you've got a 30-06 and an 18-inch barrel is 163.2. So I mean, you're looking at some really serious damage. But the thing to remember about that too is you are talking about the sound immediately inside the chamber, and as soon as you start moving away from the chamber, that drops off very, very quickly. So you're still looking at a really, really loud sound at your ear, even if your ear is right next to the stock right there. But it does drop off enough that you're not going to rupture your ear most of the time. Like when you fire, if you had to grab your 12 gauge and fire it, you're not going to rupture your ears and go deaf forever.
Right. Well, and I guess
you will take significant damage, though.
Right. I think anecdotally that probably makes sense for anybody who's had somebody discharge a weapon at or near their ears. A pistol extended, fully in a good grip that's discharged at, the side of your head is going to cause that instantaneous damage on the peak side of things. So,
one of the things, when we start talking about the way a lot of this hearing protection works, is kind of amazing, really, because when we start talking about, okay, my earmuffs, my Peltors, what would you expect something like this to do? I would think you'd want to get down below, what was the safe levels on some of these?
Well, I think they say that below 140, because 140 is the damage level.
Yeah,
and of course,
you want to be below 140. In my mind, the first thing I thought, well, I want to be down below 100, where I don't even need any sort of hearing protection at all.
right.
What's crazy, when you put these on, they say you're getting a 20 decibel protection. And you go, well, that's not, it doesn't seem like it's that much. But when you get in those higher levels, 20 decibels really is a lot more than it is, say, between the difference of silence and a ticking watch. That's not the same level of loudness going from 120 to 140 as it is from going to 0 to 20. So you do get a whole lot more benefit out of a 20 at a much higher level. It's a really serious reduction in the amount of sound when you're at that high end versus when you're at the low end.
Right. Now, you pointed out to me that whole issue of the scale itself being logarithmic.
Right, which means it's a power of 10 every time you go up a step.
Now, I think that is kind of a little hard to grasp, but going from 80 to 90 doesn't just mean that you've gone 10 points. It means that you've gone 10 times 10, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
So that it accelerates at a rather steep curve from 0 to the maximum. And so while 120 may be bearable, 140 is a jet engine, which in and of itself is a huge sound.
Yep. And that's why a rating of 20 dB is not a bad rating, and it does seem like most of the good hearing protection has a rating around that area.
So with an understanding of the decibel scale and an understanding of the kind of the decibel levels of certain caliber, common calibers, it seems like you're going to run into a range of, in any firearm, of more than 140 but less than 160 most often. And so I guess the best we can hope for is just to bring or tame whatever we're shooting to a level where damage isn't being caused by that temporary impulse of sound, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because if you've got 165 inside the chamber, and I honestly don't know. I'm not a sound engineer. I'm not even going to pretend to know. So I'm sure there are plenty of you guys out there that know a lot better than I do when it comes to the decibel stuff. When you get outside of that chamber, even just the few inches over to your ear, you're going to see a significant drop off in that level of sound as the sound expands outward and the pressure drops. And when you put on those headphones, maybe you're at, I don't know, maybe you're at 130 or 120 by the time you get to your ear and you put on the headphones, and now you're down to 100. Again, I'm making some numbers up here to be honest, but you are looking at a significant drop off when you put on that 20 dB reduction. So that's one of the ways that it's very beneficial to you. And like you said, Reed, if it's a handgun, oh my goodness, I mean, you've got a foot, 2 feet between you and the explosion going on there. So that again is going to give you a better advantage.
Right. Just don't touch one off right next to your buddy's ear. It'll really piss him off.
Bad idea, even with hearing protection.
So,
now, Reed, do you ever? A lot of people have said they double up on hearing protection, and I used to do that. I started off with these. They're just the cheap old little Winchester headset. There's no electronics to them or anything, and they didn't cover my ears very well. They did okay, but I noticed a really huge difference when I went to a quality set of ear protection. But when I wore these, oftentimes, even just shooting my pistol, I felt like these weren't enough. And so I'd grab a set of plugs and put them in. Do you ever double up like that?
Really the only time I double up is when I'm going to go and shoot my big bore rifles indoors. And
Gotcha.
that's less about sound attenuation than it is that concussion. It's like somebody clapping you over the ears with, cupped hands. Just that force is rather abrupt and disturbing. And, I don't know that it could cause any damage. It probably could, but, more than anything, it's just disruptive to my experience there.
Yeah. So that's probably one of the more common things that people do, right? There's those earplugs.
Yeah. So, I guess that's a good segue into starting the discussion about what kind of options are out there. Obviously, we're like the rest of you guys. We try until we get something that works and makes it, enjoyable to go out and shoot. I don't know that there is a right or wrong answer, except for maybe Jeremy Postrak's approach to ear protection, but we'll get into that here in a second.
Yeah.
But, I would think, Anthony, that we've got wide coverage over all the options, but I don't know that we've got all of the options.
I'm sure we don't.
Yeah. If you know of something we don't mention, please let us know, because we certainly can pass that on. But Jeremy pointed out that what was it? We Like Shooting not too long ago.
Yeah, the latest one that just came out, I was listening to a couple of days ago. It was awesome.
Yeah. So Jeremy likes putting empty casings in his ears or cigarette butts.
Or empty casings and cigarette butts.
Yeah. I think to be thorough, we should probably point out that you can also put casings that aren't empty. And, I don't know, smallish stones. I certainly wouldn't want a stone in my ear that's going to fall down the ear canal and, it causes problems. But
yeah, small-ish, exactly.
Small-ish, yeah, not small. So, basically you're talking about something to plug up the ear canal.
Y'all, you have to take a look. Reed did himself proud. His note on this number 1 is earplugs, miscellaneous objects found on the ground at the range. I love that. That's awesome.
I think our next step up from there are foam earplugs. I think they're ubiquitous. I think you are going to find them everywhere. And I think that if you were going to go to a range and be caught without hearing protection, that is probably the closest thing to the register that you're ever going to find is a little 2-pack of foam earplugs. And I think they're great. You can shoot quite well with foam earplugs in. I think they're very capable of protecting your ears. I know that, at times when you have to sleep next to someone that snores, like at deer camp, a guy in the next cot's over there sawing logs, a set of foam earplugs will certainly save the evening and allow you to actually get some rest. And I think all of the ones that I find or typically buy are available at pharmacies. So I think that's a good place. But like I said, virtually anywhere you go that is related to the firearms industry, I think almost universally you'll find a box of these near the register for when you check out.
And they come in all kinds of wonderful colors.
Well, yeah, that is true.
They come in that, what is that, medical green?
Uh-huh, yes.
And hunter orange, yes.
Those are always good options. So, the next earplug that we've got listed are kind of molded earplugs, but the generic ones. And they're not the foam rubber type. Sometimes they have like a plastic cup that's designed to fill the ear canal. I have a pair that it basically has a plastic structure that fills the inside of your earlobe, and so it kind of anchors itself while there's a plug that goes into the ear canal. I listed them as basically molded generic, but I think that what you're going to find is if it's a set of earplugs commercially available that's not foam rubber, there's some kind of a molded generic earplug. And I don't know that I've ever done any better or worse with them, but I know that there is a style of earplug that looks like a post with a bunch of rings on it. And you're supposed to stick that in your ear and kind of, each successive ring is a larger diameter, so as it bores in, it kind of holds onto the ear. I've always felt uncomfortable.
Yeah,
And
they're rather hard and stiff, and yeah, uncomfortable.
Yeah. I'm a bigger fan of the foam rubber over that kind of earplug, but I've had others that have different, I guess, construction, what you call it, design theories behind them or materials that make them a little more comfortable. But the ones that I've always wanted but have never gone out to try to acquire are kind of the custom molded earplugs. I think that whole idea of earplugs that are designed for your ears, designed to just fit you, is, to me, something that I'm pretty interested in. I've never taken the time to go out and do it. So what are your ideas or thoughts on those, Anthony?
Well, I mean, it sounds like it would be a really good thing. I mean, I know I didn't talk to you, but I was listening to the We Like Shooting podcast, and Sean over there got a set from Precision Ear. He met them at one of the events he was at here recently, and they did a custom molding for his ear. And he said he's always had problems wearing ear protection for extended hours at the range. If he's out at a range for 10, 12 hours, like when he came down to the Iraq Veteran 88 shoot a few weeks ago, he had his go homes and his ears are all sore from his ear protection and whatnot. And so he's tried these out, and he says he hadn't had a chance to wear them for a full day yet, but he's done, I think it was 4 or 5 hours straight, and had absolutely no problem whatsoever. He said he really liked them a lot. So it seems like the idea of it seems really good to me. And they say that that because these are a more expensive option, the company backs them for a long time, is what was my understanding was, and that they should last basically for the rest of his life. So he should never, hopefully, will never need to buy ear protection again.
Now, what was the name of that company again?
That's Precision Ear.
I'm looking at their website now on a very basic set of hearing protection that it appears that a maximum protection level of 28 decibels.
Yep.
And that's pretty remarkable.
Yep, and that's on the one option. One of the other options has a 29 decibel rating. So, yeah, I mean, they've got some really nice stuff. And those are all plain, then they get into some of the other options we'll talk about here in just a minute, too.
So, I think the next level up is really an interesting, but certainly it's on a level that I don't know that many shooters would get, and that is basically that custom-fit hearing protection, but with the electronic noise-canceling component. So it would be like the Peltor or the Howard Light.
But built into your ear.
Exactly. And so, I mean, I'm intrigued by the prospect of that simply on the basis of not having that huge, headset on your head, because I think that there is a part of it does interfere with,
Oh, it does for sure, man.
stuff.
Even with my Peltors that I absolutely love, when I try to, get my sight picture, sometimes those things are buttoned up against the stock.
Right.
It can be problematic for me as trying to build that repetition and that consistency into my shooting.
Now, the Precision Ear Company is one that makes a line of kind of hearing protection. However, I think the high end is almost $1,900, and that to me kind of really takes them out of the realm of a traditional consumer and puts them into the realm of someone who is either making their living shooting, or someone who is just a money is no object hobbyist.
Yep, I agree.
Enthusiast. So, yeah, I'd like to have $1,900 to buy a set of earplugs, but frankly, if I had that much money laying around that I'd be willing to spend on earplugs, I'd buy myself a Night Force scope or something nice. So I think hearing protection would be the last thing. And from my perspective on this kind of first array of options, all of the basic generic protections are enough to give you that protection on the range. So going the extra mile to something above and beyond that is really about preference and desire more so than it is necessity or need. So past that, I think we really begin to get into the idea of earmuffs, which really are just much like the headsets we wear while we're doing the podcast, but there's ordinarily no integrated sound component. They're just basically cups that are insulated with I guess a sound deadening material, and it's the same concept as earplugs, just a cup around the ear instead of something to plug the ear canal.
And one of the things when you start getting into muffs that is a real factor for everybody that I've ever talked to that's worn them is the actual material and the way that the muff is constructed. If you take off any pair of headphones, especially like the large headphones that are meant to cover up your entire ear, if you guys are watching the video, we wear full headsets and you can see that, both Reed and I do. They've got a padding in here that's supposed to create a seal around your ear, and that if that opening is not large enough for your ear, if you have a little bit larger ear, or if maybe your ear sits on your head a little bit differently, then that can be uncomfortable for longer periods of time. And I've seen that happen a whole lot, especially has happened to me with several different headsets that I've got. I don't know if you can see these Winchesters, but they're a little bit narrow for my ear.
Right.
I mean, a lot of people's ears might fit in there just fine, but they're a little bit narrow for my ears. And so after a couple of hours, you start to get some pain in there. So that makes a big difference, as well as not only the size of that, but the material and the construction of that, whether it's comfortable and cushy and stuff too.
Now, when you shoot, do you wear eye protection, like a traditional polycarbonate lens of some sort?
I'll either wear that, or if I've got my sunglasses, I'll wear my sunglasses. So it depends on what the day's like.
Right, and I wear glasses, corrective lenses, and my sunglasses have corrective lenses. So I've always got something that's, right under my ear protection. And, of course, the ear protection tries to clamp down over the ear, but it's also pressing the arms of my glasses, whether they be sunglasses or regular glasses. They press that arm into the side of my head. So I think just naturally, with a little bit of that and some time, you really get an uncomfortableness going on that has nothing to do with how comfortable the cups are. It's all about the fact that you got this metal or plastic, arm that's, in the way.
Yeah,
So,
and then there's the banding that actually comes across. It depends. I guess you can get them to go across the top of your head. You can get them to go around the back of your head, different things like that. But that banding, if that is sits in an uncomfortable spot on your forehead, not on your forehead, but on the top of your head or on your back or somewhere, the back of your neck, that also can be really annoying.
well, and I often wear a baseball cap under my hearing protection, so there's that little button on the top of the baseball cap. I have to kind of shift my hearing protection just a little forward to that, or it just presses that down right on the top of my noggin. So
I have to do that normally where I'm wearing my hat during the podcast, even with these.
So, I think when it comes to earmuffs, you're going to see a lot of different brands. By and large, it's... What's that?
The regular earmuffs are very inexpensive.
Yeah.
And so you're going to see a very large variety of brands out there.
And I think there are a lot of earmuffs that are branded by certain firearms companies to kind of, add to whatever lines they have. But, for example, Browning, Caldwell, Winchester, are some pretty common brands that we've seen, on our favorite Firearms products website, Brownells. And so those kinds of things, I don't know that there's a right or a wrong. I don't know that there's a spectrum of quality that's going to take you from, the $23 pair to the $25 pair that is, significant. And frankly, I don't know that there are $100, $200 basic earmuffs, because the technology is just very straightforward.
Yep.
But, that being the case, I don't think there's necessarily all that much in the way of bad options. As long as it's going to protect your ears, I think at that point you're good. So really, when it comes down to it, that's what you need to do. So the next piece in the puzzle, I would say, really kind of leads us towards the issue of electronic earmuffs. And of course, I've misspelled that in the notes. It's ear electronic muffs, but that's what happens when you use cut and paste. So electronic earmuffs really lead us into the things that we pointed out at the beginning of the show, which are what Anthony and I use. JW does as well, and I know that there are a lot of shooters that like those. I don't know the true genesis of those products, whether it was driven from the military application side or whether it was driven from a competition application side, but I think most of the major manufacturers of electronic earmuffs supply both sides of that equation. So I know that Peltor makes a lot of tactical ear protection. I know that all of these manufacturers make competitive hearing protection, and so whichever side of the house we find the drive to bring these products to market, I think they really have been embraced a lot by a lot of different shooters. And I think that one part of that is that there seems to be a lot more convenience in the use of these when you can actually have a conversation on a range while you're wearing your hearing protection, or you can hear range commands while you're wearing your hearing protection. And so to me, I don't know that I would ever go back. I might continually search for the best electronic earmuff out there for my needs, but I don't know that I would ever really take a step backward into a non-electronic earmuffs. Now, of course, electronic earplugs, I think as soon as I get that $1,900, I'm willing to blow, and I'll head that direction.
Yep. When I go to the range, I have my single pair of my Peltors, but I've got the 2 pair of Winchesters that I originally bought. I keep those in the bag, in my range bag. They go with me too, just in case somebody shows up and needs a pair or something happens and there's breaks or whatever. And I keep just a little plastic bag full of the earplugs, just the molded generic ones that you turn around, squeeze, and stick in your ear.
And I'm the exact same way. The last pair of hearing protection that I retired stays in my bag. I take it with me wherever I go. I have a couple of pockets filled with the Ziploc bag full of the squishy earplugs, and then those little bitty round containers. I'm sure I cleaned off my desk today, so all of the bric-a-brac that usually surrounds me is in a box on the other side of my office. So, but I have those little bitty containers with the little flip open lid, and I have little pairs of hearing protection in there as well. So I could probably protect the ears of a squad of Marines if I needed to. But it's just, I think it's just part and parcel to what's in my range bag every day. So
yep. When you start talking about the electronic ones, have you looked at the range of options that's out there.
Yeah.
I was looking over some of this stuff, back when I was considering my Peltors, and then again reviewing tonight for the show. It's insane. I mean, you can run the price gamut from $40-$50 for a cheap pair of electronic earmuffs that will do fairly well for you, up to, and I saw it. Okay, guys, like I said, my Peltor Tactical Sport I got for $65 on sale. Okay, last year, and when I was searching, I found a pair of 3M Peltor Tactical Sports for $600. I thought, okay, that's just somebody trying to rip you off. No, it's because this exact same earmuff can have different electronics and all kinds of options, like adding Bluetooth, AM/FM radio, all kinds of other communications, like different radio frequencies and all kinds of crazy stuff.
Oh yeah. Well, and I have seen the whole setup in a military application where you're basically plugging your hearing protection into your communications devices so you can hear the radio chatter. Sometimes you have the mics, and there's a whole array of technology there that has nothing to do with my experience. I mean, we're still using the darn backpack, hand radios and stuff. So, but you have a lot of these induction mics, and I don't know. I think there's bone mics. I'm not sure what all the ranges are, but all of that tied into a comprehensive communication package that's going through your hearing protection, that's allowing you to also listen to whatever environment you're in. Which, at some point you have to be able to hear your surroundings if you're going to be someone who is going to conduct, military operations, in that environment. You have to use your senses, and so I'm sure that the level of protection and the level of quality of hearing through those higher-end devices is also far superior to what I have in my normal, hearing protection that are electronic, my Howard lights. So it's a pretty staggering array of options on that military side, but I think much of that technology is still very much commercially available to the average consumer. So if you wanted to get the radio and the mic and the switching stuff and push to talk cords and stuff, it's all available to you. But of course, that leads you to Anthony's findings that you're going to be looking at higher end $600 plus setups for hearing protection, when at the end of the day, if all you're doing is protecting your ears, that set of 99-cent foam ear protection from the pharmacy is going to do the exact same level of protection. So Anthony reached out to a number of the FRN staff and asked the question, what do you use, and tell us about it. So Anthony, you want to get started off here on our first response?
Yeah, man, you bet. As we get started here, I really want to give a big thank you out to all of the FRN staff. As always, whenever we put a question out there, we always get a ton of feedback, and it's really good feedback, and we actually have some really nice little tidbits in here for you guys. So Michael from over at the Competitive Rifle Podcast sent back to us, and he says that he prefers to use the Surefire Sonic Defenders. I'll leave the plugs out, and then cover up with the Peltor Tactical 6S's. That's the ones right near the same kinds of Peltors that I have. And he says, this lets me hear range commands, but still protect what hearing I have left. So apparently he's lost a little bit. I can understand that. For high power and bullseye matches, I wear some custom earplugs made by Case Associates. He says that's a husband and wife pair. He got them made at Camp Harry in 2012, and they shut out pretty much everything. I can wear these, he says, at a high power bullseye match because the course of fire and range commands are the same. I can't wear them at IDPA match because he can't hear anything. So I guess, like he says, if it takes out all the noise, then he's kind of stuck there.
So Devin with the Firearms Insider wrote in that he likes the cheap foam expanding plugs under cheap earmuffs. Then he says, except for when he can liberate his friend's Howard Lights Impact Sports. And those are the ones that I use. I think that they still are a pretty great option.
They're really popular.
Are they? I mean, I would like to know who kind of leads the charge, because I hear Peltor is...
I hear more Peltor, yeah.
And I haven't had any experience with the Peltor yet. So, Aaron...
Well, I was...
No. Go ahead.
I was going to say the reason I chose these, when I was working on my NRA pistol instructor certification, there were several guys there that actually had these the same set of earmuffs, and I was able to try them out, and the difference between those and several of the other ones the guys had were really significant between, and I don't know what the other brands were, I don't remember, but I know I tried on 4 or 5 different pair while I was there,
right.
4 or 5 different types, and the Peltors were just, in my opinion at the time, they were the much better product. So.
Well, I think that the cups on yours are much larger, which to me says they probably have much more substance inside of them. So I'm going to go and look and see if I can't find a retailer with some Peltors and just kind of try them out.
Yeah, and they've got, that's the other thing, we talked about the material that these things are made of. Sorry, I hate to harken back when we're right in the middle of the feedback from our guys, but there's a gel pack that you can get that will replace the ring on the inside of these for the Peltors. The gel pack is $52 on Amazon.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
It's like you're having to buy hearing protection all over again.
I know, but I can imagine how much more comfortable that might be, a little gel pack around your ears like that, and even a better seal.
So Aaron responded to our question by saying he has 2 earmuffs coming in and 2 form-fitting earplugs. He'll let us know. I'm assuming that since We Like Shooting just interviewed the guys over there at Precision Ear, his form-fitting earplugs are some of theirs.
Maybe. That would be awesome.
So Larry over at the Power Factor show wrote back that he uses Moldex foam plugs because I'm cheap. He says I use most to support my Contour HD camera for getting match footage. And he says it's nice to be double plugged, but I can't hear much of anything else with both systems in place. If I'm not shooting, I just wander around and play range officer with the plugs only, unless I'm running a guy with a particularly loud open division race gun. So that's good to know. I think really, this is an illustration of somebody who's getting out in a much more frequent basis, shooting and with other shooters, and he's a fan of just the straight baseline products. Regular hearing protection, regular foam plugs. There you go.
This next suggestion may be my favorite of all of them throughout the night.
Well, and Ryan Cross, one of our big network honchos, wrote back. He said he wrote actually the words "pew pew" and put up a picture of one of the Osprey silencers. So, really, I don't think you can argue with his logic. I mean, certainly, it's cheaper to get a silencer than it is to get a pair of those Precision Ear custom electronic form-fitted earplugs.
But those electronic form-fitted earplugs will work with every firearm you have.
Yes, and you can sell them without having to give the the ATF notice.
That's true.
Yeah. So, Ryan Cross, thank you for that inspiring response.
Yeah, so should we consider that?
Too.
Should we add that to our we didn't think about that. Should we add that up above and put that in as a form of ear protection, silencers? Because they are.
Well, yeah, I think that makes sense. When it comes down to it, I think that the nations where a silencer is a readily available commercial product, the reason they are so, and I would speak more specifically, I think Great Britain allows you to buy a silencer at a hardware store. It is just not a big deal.
Yeah, if you already have the firearm, take the silencer. By gosh, save everybody's ears.
So, let's see. Jared, over at the Firearms Insider blog, wrote in, he prefers when Jake sticks his fingers in his ears. He says it's comforting and soothing. Well, as was pointed out by some of the witty comments back and forth, apparently Jared needs to remember what happens at the range stays at the range, because he's letting out some of his and Jake's, I guess, insider secrets. So.
Yeah. But now the question was raised, and I still have not heard an answer as to whether or not Jake licks his fingers first.
Well, I would think that that's assumed. Isn't that just natural?
That would be
You
natural.
have to form a good seal.
That's
a
true.
little bit of Willie will let you form that seal. So a dry finger just doesn't do it.
That's true. And so JW from our own AR-15 podcast here, who couldn't be with us tonight, says that he loves the TCI DEHPs with gel cups for wearing all day. See, there's the gel cup thing again. I think they just got bought out by Safariland or something. And he used to be really into headphones. I was thinking about it and getting some custom IEMs and maybe EarPro with the same molds. Interesting. The muffs have worked great so far, though. Changed the batteries once in the last year or so, I think. Run the behind-the-head model, which, I would really like to get a behind-the-head model for mine. And if it's just under helmets, just fine. Never wanted to go with the helmet rail adapters because I don't use helmets very often and I don't want to have to switch back and forth. Good idea. So that's a good option.
You know, and that's an illustration of another option on how to mount a set of headphones, because you will see, I think, from time to time helmets where it appears that the headphones are basically riding as attachment points just over the ears on where the helmet sits. I've seen other helmets where the hearing protection fits basically the crossbar that goes over the top of your head, fits within the helmet in a convenient, comfortable way. And of course, when he's talking about the behind-the-head model, that basically puts that protective piece at the base of the neck, or not the protective piece, the clamping component right behind the head. So your helmet's not going to interfere with that anyways.
Yep. So Mike with the Reloading Podcast says, as we've already discussed, just do like Jerry and Pause Direct does, and use cigarette butts. Yeah, that was a good episode. Jeremy's an interesting character. I like him.
Well, Hank, our VP of Sales, wrote in. He says he just had these made, and by these he's referring to a set of Precision EarPro earplugs that
I love this thing, the Defender convertible.
And it says, and he really loves those earplugs. He says he's only used them twice, but he doesn't see any reason why he would change his opinion in the future. He says they met them at the Bullpup shoot recently, and they did the custom molds on site for him. So, and this, of course, was discussed by the We Like Shooting team in episode 65. And then, what does he say? I know that you can get a set that you make your own mold on and then send back to them to get made.
Yeah, and that's what Aaron said he was doing. And that's they send you a kit, and I don't know exactly how it works. I have images of some sort of a goo that you put in a needle and squirt it into your ear and then pull it out to send it back to them or something. I don't know.
Well, you know, as a child, I had ear tubes. And if you swim with ear tubes, it's a bad thing. So they made earplugs, and they literally made a mold by, once again taking, warm gooey stuff and pouring it into that, opening of your ear. Yep. And it's a little disconcerting, but the plugs they made would completely seal the opening, and so you could swim all day long and you would get no water in your ears. I'm sure that the hearing protection that they're coming out with, like Hank's talking about, and all the We Like Shooting guys, is exactly from that whole design methodology.
Very cool.
So I think that's a pretty fair representation of what's out there. I mean, obviously we can't cover everything, and I'm sure that there are custom solutions that we didn't mention that really people might think of as being true, worthwhile innovations. If you know of any of those, send them in. We'd like to share it. We'd like to send it out. And this list is basically an expression of our personal experience because, I think aside from the things that you covet because they're really neat, like, custom molded electronic earplugs.
Yes, $1,900.
Yeah. A lot of these are just, it's the natural evolution of the things that we've used. And, foam plugs, the generic molded ones, ear muffs, electronic ear muffs. I mean, that's all the mainstream of that side of the sport. So, um, you know, take it for what it is, but, certainly we want to share something if you think you've got something to share. And, once again, we always just have a great array of opinions when we query the FRN staff, and this is a prime example. We've just got a whole lot of things that give an expression of where people are in this whole idea of what to use. So thanks again, guys, all of you, for making the contributions. And
yeah, we would be remiss. I almost forgot, and I apologize, Reed. I did almost forget. We did pose the same question on Facebook, so make sure you guys run over to Facebook and go to facebook.com/Firearms Radio. And we had several people that reported back in that they were using Peltors. We had one person say they were using Caswell, which I'm not familiar with, unfortunately. And we had a couple people say they have the Howard Lights and love them, and say they have the Howard Lights and hate them. So we appreciate that feedback from our Facebook fans.
Absolutely. So, do you have any takeaways from all of this?
Put a little bit of money into your headphones. If you want to get an electronic pair, spend, $40, $50 and get a decent pair of electronics. I was shocked at how much of a difference it made for me. And that seems to be the consensus.
Let's see. I think for me, the takeaway is this. I've lost part of my hearing because of my exposure to firearms. And I'm not going to stop shooting because my hearing might suffer further. But I am really far more diligent about wearing hearing protection now since I've suffered some loss. I think it's important to remember for all of you that you only have the one shot at this, and if you damage your ears by not getting some good protection, you're not going to easily get that back if you ever get it back. So, I agree with you. Invest some energy in getting something that will protect you. It doesn't have to be the most expensive thing, but make sure you're protecting that hearing, because once again, you won't get it back once it's gone.
Yep, that's definitely true. And that's one of those things that you never realize quite how much you use it until it's no longer there. So.
Well, I think with that, do you think we've done enough damage for our listeners, or is there much more?
Yeah, I hope so. I think we've covered the topic fairly well, at least as far as I'm aware. Now, I'd love to hear from our listeners, or if Precisioneer wants to send us some spec sheets on how their product compares to like an electronic set of earmuffs or something like that. I'd love to know what they see the advantages of the injection molded type system is over the earmuffs. And,
absolutely.
Yeah, if they want to, maybe we can even at some point have them on the show. Who knows? But there's definitely a lot of other options out there that I'm sure I'm not aware of, so I'd love to hear from our listeners or any other companies that might have new systems available so we can get some information out to our listeners.
Well, with that, why don't we reiterate the fact that we have a firearm waiting in the gun safe for Jennifer Gimmon, the lucky winner of the AR-15 giveaway, and hopefully we'll hear back from her soon, and she can tell us how to make arrangements to get this rifle sent to her.
Definitely, we want to hear from you. Give us a holler, Jennifer. We want to know what's going on.
Well, let us touch on some feedback. You want to get started with Rob?
Sure. We heard from Rob S. and said he was listening to episode 92 on SBRs. Again, yes, it was not our first one. He says, I've been contemplating registering one of my AR lowers as an SBR for a long time. When I heard that the ATF is taking electronic Form 1s and is in the process of changing the rules governing trusts, I decided that now is the time to submit the form. In case anyone is interested, there's a great article on AR-15.com which takes you step by step through the electronic submission. I do believe I have seen that myself as well. When you complete the form, you enter the caliber, barrel length, and length overall. Does that lock you into the dimensions and caliber entered on the form, is his question. I've heard conflicting information from various sources and wanted your input on the matter. Thanks for the great show. Any ideas, Reed?
Yeah, I do actually. And it starts off with the issue of, well, there's two components on that application. One is a labeling component, and the other is the component that is permitting you to have a rifle barrel that is less than 16 inches of length and a overall length rifle of whatever the minimum length is. So the fact that it's a short-barreled rifle means that it's going to have a barrel or have an overall length that's less than that required of a rifle. And what you end up having once you've established the right to have a short barrel configuration is an obligation to accurately report what's going on. And so there is it is the ATF equivalent of a ruling, a revenue ruling, which is the IRS's similar mechanism. But the ATF ruling basically illustrates that the requirement, as you express in terms of barrel length and caliber and so forth, is one that relates to that marking requirement. So in discussing the issue with an ATF agent who clarified for me my question, or basically reaffirmed my understanding of the issue, it's this way. You go out, you put in a barrel length, and you put in a caliber, and from the ATF's position, as long as whatever configuration of rifle you have has the appropriate markings on it, whether that be on the barrel itself or on the lower, you are going to be fine. Now, in my exposure to short barrels, they typically will have the caliber in a much more overt form on the exterior of the barrel, as opposed to some non-ATF length barrels, which they may or may not even identify the caliber, much less any other feature on the external part of the barrel. But in the case of the SBR barrels I've seen, they do illustrate for you what the caliber is, and I don't think that the length is a requirement that it be printed on the barrel, but you're good with any variation on length and caliber as long as you meet their minimum marking requirements. And Rob, I think I'll go ahead and pull that ruling out from my resources and send it to you. But if anybody has an interest in seeing that, you can always email the show, and I'll see that I get it out to you as well. So it doesn't really matter. You can change up the caliber and the barrel length regardless of what is on the form, because that is less about, I guess, pigeonholing you into one formation of the rifle as much as it is just letting the ATF know where you're starting from.
Gotcha.
And I don't know if that makes it any clearer for you, but it's a little bit of a strange, murky thing.
Our next piece of feedback comes from Mark O. He says, "Hey guys, please do an episode on 308 ARs and the differences between DPS and Armalite. I do believe you've mentioned them briefly on the show, but it would be great to hear more of the details. Thanks."
I think we did a 308 show. It's been a while, so I think we're probably due for revisiting this matter. Of course, we've got some things in the works with SHOT Show, and we've got
Mm-hmm.
we've extended an invite to the guys from Mega Arms again, and see if we can't. And so I think that might be a good opportunity for us to maybe revisit some of these issues. But certainly it is in the hopper to bring it around for discussion again, Mark. So
Yeah, it was ARP-33. Was
so
when we did
been a while.
AR-10s. Yeah, it's been a while.
So when we go back, we'll certainly take a look at it, and we want you to stick around long enough to catch that when it does come around, Mark. So
Definitely.
Thanks for being in. So Classified 1976 writes in, I just recently discovered the Firearms Radio Network on iTunes, and I am particularly drawn to the AR-15 podcast. At work, I listen to all of your shows one after another. Your topics are informative, and your guests are awesome. Great shows. Please keep them coming. Well, Classified 1976, thank you. We appreciate it. It's this very kind of feedback that really, I think, reinforces the reason that we get on there and put together shows and talk to you guys. At the end of the day, it's just a lot of fun to be able to dig into a hobby that I think that all of the hosts here on the show appreciate and are real fond of, and I would say that probably transcends the entire network. We're all enthusiasts. So it's when you guys let us know that you appreciate what we do that it kind of reinforces for us that we're doing the things that we need to be doing. So
That's right. That's right, exactly. Thank you very much for writing in.
So
Our last piece of feedback today comes from Randall F. He says, hey again, Reed, just a couple of questions. What kind of stainless barrel was on that giveaway rifle? Was it stainless, he says, and if so, what kind?
that was a Brownell's barrel, and I am going to have to dig a little deeper. So, in fact, I think that was a Brownell's product. So, if you will bear with me while Anthony sings the song from, what is that?
Well,
Jeopardy. Dum, 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 dum.
No, I'm not going to sing. But I do appreciate you guys writing in and letting us know and sending us questions and whatnot. And I had a rather interesting experience at work this past week. One of the guys that works in the same business that I'm in came up to me, and he and I haven't talked a whole lot. We're friendly with each other, but we haven't gone out and done anything together. We're not best friends or anything like that. And he came up to me and said, I've been listening to your podcast, your AR-15 podcast. I like it a lot. Sometime we have to go out shooting together. I'm like, where did this come from? So that was my first experience of having somebody listen to the show, and I have no idea how he found out about it. I don't talk about it or anything, so it was rather interesting.
Is that fandom?
I'm not sure. When you already know the person, is it? I don't think it's really fandom, so I'm not sure. Oh, another thing to let you guys know about. Right now, I am working on picking out an Appleseed event to go to in December, and there are two that I'm considering. I'll be honest, I'll probably go with the close one. There's one in Pensacola, Florida, which is not that far from where I live, and I think that one is December 6th and 7th. Does that sound right? Yeah, December 6th and 7th. And the other one is 13th and 14th, and it's in North Alabama up near Huntsville. So that's quite on the other end of the state for me. So I'll probably end up going to the one in Pensacola. But that's still iffy right now. But if I do end up going, I'll be sure to let you guys know. And if anybody else, any other listeners are there, we'll set a time and a place. Maybe we'll do a little meet-up and have some discussions.
Absolutely. Well, listen, Randall, I found the barrel. The barrel is a Brownell's barrel. It has a 223 Wild chamber. It is a 1-in-8 twist. It is a 20-inch barrel. And I believe when we actually made the switch in the switch up in our build from the Colt barrel to this one, I went through some of the things that I thought were deficient in the Colt barrel that were just unavoidable because of where we were as far as having Colt quality. You get what they give you. So the Colt barrel was a 1-in-9 twist. This is 1-in-8, and I like that better because I'm a heavier bullet guy. So 62 to I think 80 grain bullets are going to do just fine in a 1-in-8 twist barrel. It's a 223 wild chamber, so it is in theory designed to kind of bridge that gap between the 223 and the 5.56 chambers, and I guess give you a little more flexibility in what you're going to chamber in your rifle. It is, of course, a 20-inch length barrel, which was the same as our Colt. However, this one is threaded, so it has the 1/2 28 thread pitch on it, which the Colt barrel didn't have threads, and so that was a little disconcerting. And I think, finally, this one did not have a front sight base on it with kryptonite welded taper pins that would not let loose under any conditions whatsoever. So, we were able to actually have a much better result by putting our own front side base on here and not having to worry about taking off a Colt installed forever, never coming off front side base. So I've put the number, the stock number, the SKU number, I guess it's called, from the Brownells website. Currently, they're on back order. It's a good quality barrel. I certainly would suggest that to anybody who's looking for a 20-inch barrel to put on a precision rifle. And, it's got, I think it's got 3 reviews. It averages 4 stars. I would give it a little better than that, but, frankly, go out and see what you think. If you're interested, that's where you go. That's how you get it, Randall. So I guess that's it. We've done another show, and forgive us once again for we may not know what we do. So thanks again, guys. We do appreciate it. Anthony, you want to let us read out with a little bit of dignity, or?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. As always, guys, you can send us any questions or comments to feedback@ar15podcast.com. Oh, Reed, we totally forgot. We'll cover it next week. We actually did get a voicemail from the SpeakPipe plugin. So, darn it, I knew I forgot something. We'll cover that next week. So make sure you can send us a voicemail by using the SpeakPipe plugin on the right-hand side of the AR-15 podcast website. I'd love to hear from you guys vocally. That'd be a wonderful thing. You can subscribe and listen to the AR-15 podcast for free at firearmsradio.tv/iTunes. And as always, please be sure to leave us a review on iTunes and or in Stitcher if you happen to use Stitcher, because that helps us place higher in show searches, and that helps us get more listeners, which helps us get more industry attention and bring you better news and reviews and interviews. Share your pics with us on Facebook or on Flickr, and the address for Flickr is flickr.com/groups/Black Rifle. On Facebook, you can follow FRN and find us and all the other wonderful podcasts on the Firearms Radio Network, at facebook.com/firearmsradio. You can watch us live. We typically record on Monday nights around 8:30 Central Time at www.firearmsradio.tv/plus for the Google Plus links, or you can find our live links on YouTube at youtube.com/firearmsradio, and that goes for all of the shows just about on the Firearms Radio Network. We'll record and broadcast that way. As always, we love our Brownells sponsorships, and Brownells has been wonderful to us, and we want you to continue to be wonderful back to Brownells in return. So don't forget to use our Brownells affiliate link for all of your AR-15 parts by going to ar15podcast.com/parts before you go to purchase all of your needs for your Black Rifle from Brownells. And as another thing for you guys, everybody uses Amazon. Everybody knows that everybody uses Amazon, so there's no secrets here. You can go to the firearmsradio.tv website and click on the Amazon banner, and that will use the Amazon affiliate link for us and give us a very small portion of any purchases you might already be making on Amazon without changing the price you pay at one lick.
Outstanding. Well, and we want to remind you once again, we put a call out for show ideas and for suggestions on who you'd like us to visit at SHOT Show. And I know that every one of you listens to the very, very last word spoken on every one of our episodes, so we're hoping that this catches you well aware of the good stuff being here at the end. But I guess with that, another great show. We look forward to next week. And Anthony, thank you for helping me really piece this one together after a difficult week for all of our AR-15 podcast hosts.
That's right. Yes, sir. Very good one. You guys have a good evening.
All right. Good night.
This has been a production of the Firearms Radio Network. You can find more information at firearmsradio.tv.